Hey, welcome back, heroes. Thanks for stopping by and watching. Today's going to be about conventions. We're just going to breeze over a few things. Later on, I'm going to make a full-time show about something I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, so stay tuned for that. But conventions, what ones should you go to? Well, I've gone to New York, Big Apple. I've gone to the Baltimore, a few other really small ones, local cons and conventions and stuff. So I'm retiring at the end of this year, so next year, 2025, I'm going to hit as many conventions as I can, and I need some help in knowing about seeing the conventions I like. So don't say I got to go to San Diego, because I'm not hitting San Diego, because I think I've gone to my last New York ComicCon. Marvel wasn't there, DC wasn't there, Image wasn't there. You know, I put out a little video on that a while ago. You can go back and check that out. There was very little comics there. The only reason I'd go to New York, and that would be for one day, would be for the Artist Alley. They have the best Artist Alley. It was jam-packed this year. Some of the greatest artists and writers were there. Pretty much of your current comics. There was very few old-timers. So if you're into any of the older books and some of the older artists, you don't see them there. You want to go down to Baltimore ComicCon. That's where you want to go. I mean, if you're going to save up and travel to go to a trip, take a trip and go see a show, go to Baltimore ComicCon. It's pretty much 90% comics. They have a great Artist Alley. They have also a lot of the bigger, older artists and writers have their own spot on a different part of the convention floor. There is very few movie stars and actors from television. So if that's what you want to go for in a con, scratch it off your list. But Baltimore, if you're a real tight, big time comic book fan and you want a con that's about comics, Baltimore is where it's at. So that's the ones I want you to tell me about that are around the country that I've never heard of or never seen. This year, I think I'm going to hit, in August, I'm going to hit Terrificon. Because I've heard great things about Terrificon, but I've never made it over there, and it's really, you know, like an hour and 20 or an hour and 30 minutes from me. So I should definitely make it over there. I want to hear about some of the cons that most people don't talk about that may not be strictly a comic con. It might be like a smaller, like local con, which is really just about comics being sold between dealers, and then there's like no movie stars, there's no artists, it's just comics. I'm interested in those a lot too. So we have a little small one down in Jersey. I forget what they call it, but it's either in Clifton or in Wayne. It's just comic guys there with like tons of really like budget stuff and a lot of the better stuff at a really discounted price. And I miss it because I'm here at the shop all the time, but it's in Jersey. It's usually on a Sunday once a month. It's either in Wayne or in Clifton. They move it back and forth. I think they were in Morristown once. If you're in that general area, give me the name of it and the Instagram of it, because I've missed it the last couple of times I wanted to go. I was going to take a Sunday off and ride down there, because really the picking is fantastic. Listen, as a dealer, if I'm picking and happy with the prices I'm paying, as a collector, you're going to be ecstatic. And I hate to give up one of my one of my spots, one of my honey holes, but listen, I'm pretty much an open book. You want to know something, you just ask me. Seriously, 2025, I'm going to try to hit at least 25, 2 a month is going to be what I want to try to do. That's 24, and then one extra one. I got to kind of make a map and move from one to the other through the states. So I need your guys' help in showing me where they're at. Send me their Instagram, send me their address, their website, whatever you want to send it to me. Especially if you love it, right? I want to know what people love. I just don't go on there and Google it. I can Google it. I need to have some insider information. Google doesn't give you insider information. I need information from the community that when I go to this comic convention, I feel welcome. I feel like there's a lot of comics. The dealers are fun to deal with, that kind of stuff. So that's my thing on conventions, what I want to do for 2025. And now I want to talk about something else. I'm going to do a full show, and Dennis from Wonder World Comics has agreed to come on, and I'm going to try to find somebody else who's had a problem with this. So I went to Comic-Con in New York, and I got 4-day pass from Lunar. It's great. As being a retailer, it was a benefit. They gave me a 4-day pass. On day one, they were having like DC and a bunch of other comic companies there to tell us what they're going to be doing in the next year, in this year, 2024. What's coming back, what's they're going to do new, all that kind of stuff. And then they had a round table of discussions. They had about 25 tables, and then you could go to whatever table you wanted to. I happened to take the table with the president of Comics Pro, and it was basically on where comics are going, where we think comics are going, and what do we want to see from the comic companies. There were several people there, and everybody knows from watching the channel that I sometimes get a little bit ridiculously passionate about comics, and sometimes even emotional. That's how I'm built, sorry. I'll try not to cry. So I was a little bit overly passionate, maybe, and about how comic companies need to focus on the next generation of comic book readers. If they want comic shops to survive into the future, you know, we need to have future readers. You know, I was told pretty much they gave up all that market to Manga. That Captain Underpants, which I carry. I'm a Scholastic dealer. I think it's great for the really young 3 to 7 year olds. And it gets them in, if you're carrying it, it gets you into the comic shop, right? If they don't have to wait for the bookmobile or the book sale at their school, they can come get them at any time and order them through us. So it's bringing in some business, and it's also getting them into the comic shop, right? So I'm not against that business. I'm against completely handing over all the youth to manga. I do carry a little bit of manga also. I had gotten rid of all of it, but I've had some traded in recently, so I have a used section of manga. I don't bring in a lot of new stuff because it's very hard. They don't keep them all in print, so it's very hard to get number ones, and people don't want to start off in the middle, so on and so forth. You guys don't want to hear the whole song and dance on that. But anyway, I was upset about that, so I was a little bit animated, and so I put in to join because I wanted to go to, in Pittsburgh is going to be this coming up weekend. Or the next one. I think it's this weekend. There's going to be the big Comics Pro get together. So I wanted to go to that. So I applied in October because they had a deal, special deal. You get $200 off joining, and Emmett, there's nothing that Emmett doesn't like more than a deal. So I said, well, I would like to go to that in February and some networking with some people and get some information for my channel and stuff like that. And so I sent my application in and I didn't hear anything. So I sent an email and the president said, oh, I forwarded this to the guy who's in charge of membership and he'll be getting back to you. Well, he never got back to me. So I messaged again and I CC'd that guy and he still didn't message me back. But the president messaged me back and said, well, I don't know what's going on. He's handling it. Okay, fine. So I get to another email. I said, well, listen, I'm not worried about getting it for $199. I'll pay the full $399. I just filled out a new application. Please process it because I would really like to get my hotel for the event. I didn't hear anything for 10 days. So my last email was, it said, you are either gatekeepers or incompetent. Either way, I don't want to be part of your organization. So I'm sure I'm never going to be allowed to be a part of Comics Pro. A buddy of mine had been president a long time ago, and he asked me to join, and it was when I first started the shop. I really couldn't afford that extra $200, to be honest, and so I didn't join. But now, through my own regular job, I have the money, extra money that I could buy our membership for a year. It's 1 year, $400. For the one meeting a year that you go to and get like some free comics, low print variants just for Comics Pro. It's kind of cool. Plus they usually have some people that you meet there. There's usually bring in some artists. They usually have Marvel and DC representatives there. That's like really why I wanted to go. So I said that, you know, at first I was like, you know, I'll just write it off as nothing. But then I was, you know, telling the story to a few of my friends, Dennis being one of them, and he was like, no, man, do I have stories to tell about Comics Pro. So at some point, you're going to see a show with me and Dennis, two old gray-haired men, shouting into the netherworld about Comics Pro. And I know this doesn't have, a lot to do with the regular community at large, but, maybe it does. If the people that Marvel, DC, Image are listening to as the retailers, if this is the organizations that's talking directly to them and they're gatekeeping people like myself and Dennis who may be overly passionate about comics, it's a problem because we all should get a voice in this. There's things that I don't like and I won't carry in my shop, and it's my business. I get to do that. But as far as having freedom of speech and making what they make what you make, do what you do. But to gatekeep is very, very wrong. For a national organization to shut people out that just love comics, because maybe we're a little bit out of control when we talk about them because we want to see them last. They take it as, they're college educated or this, that, the other thing. By the way, the entire board, from what I remember, maybe not the entire board, I'll take that back because I'm not sure about the entire, at least 3 of the people on the board's comic shops were Eisner Award winning stores. Well, I was an Eisner Award nominee last year. I don't understand why people would gatekeep, but I don't want to get too much into it because I want to have a whole show on it. But yeah, there's things about in the industry that you might not know about that are out there that are going on behind the scenes and might be the reason you're seeing what you're seeing at some of the big comic companies if they're leaning on and relying on Comics Pro only. All right, I don't want to babble on forever. I really appreciate all the new subscribers. I know this is not like my usual stuff because my usual stuff is pretty much about CGC. But some people have asked me about talking about comics because they enjoyed when I passionately talked about Sergeant Rock and Swamp Thing. That kind of content is coming. I just have to fit it in and squeeze it in. I have to schedule. I want to have a couple of people on with me. I have an interview coming with a writer and an artist of a new book called Bear Pirate Viking Queen. There's a lot of buzz on the internet about it. It was a big hit over in Europe when it was shown. It's going to be out in May. So I think I'll have that show somewhere in March. When and if it shows up, well, it will show up in the previews guide. I'm not sure if it's going to be this month's preview guide or next month's preview guide, but I don't want to drop it before the preview guides come out so that you guys can, after you watch the show, you're going to want to run and order it. So I want to wait until you can order it and so that you don't forget about it because it's an amazing book coming out. I'm also going to try to get a few other artists or writers on to talk about their books. I'm also going to get some more retailers on. Stay tuned, keep reading comics, and keep giving us comments, man. I want to know where I'm going next year.